I never thought I'd live to see the day when someone in my own family would treat me like an outsider in my son's home. But life has a way of showing you people's true colors when you least expect it. My name's George. I'm 72 years old, a retired construction supervisor, and for most of my life I've prided myself on being independent. After my wife, Margaret, passed away 8 years ago, I did everything on my own, cooked, drove, paid my bills, even volunteered at the local shelter on weekends. But when my son Daniel insisted that I move in with him and his wife Melissa, saying it would be better for everyone, I finally gave in. I didn't want to be a burden, but Daniel sounded so genuine. "Dad, we've got a spare room and the kids love you. It'll be great having you around," he said, and that was all it took. At first, everything seemed fine. Melissa welcomed me with that perfect smile, always cheerful, always polite, almost too polite, like every word was rehearsed. She'd say things like, "Of course, George. Anything you need? Or your family now? Make yourself at home." But the moment Daniel left for work each morning, that smile would vanish like a light switch turned off. Suddenly my coffee cup wasn't washed, my breakfast was forgotten. And she'd stop calling me Dad and just say him like I was some stranger renting a room in their house. I ignored it at first, told myself she was probably stressed. 2 kids, a job, a household, it couldn't be easy. But then little things started adding up. She'd whisper on the phone whenever I walked in. She'd accidentally forget to invite me to family dinners. And she'd roll her eyes when her friends came over, making little comments like, "George doesn't really go out much, you know how older folks are." Or, "He's still figuring out how to use a smartphone." I wasn't angry, just hurt. I'd worked my whole life, raised my son with love and honesty, and now I was being treated like some senile old man. Still, I kept quiet. I didn't want to cause trouble between Daniel and his wife. But one night, everything changed. Daniel was away on a business trip, and I walked toward the living room to offer Melissa some tea. As I got closer, I heard her laughing on a video call with her sister. I froze when I heard my name. Her sister asked how things were going with me living there, and Melissa said, "I can't wait until Daniel agrees to put his dad in assisted living. The man just sits there all day acting like he owns the place." Her sister laughed and asked if I helped with the bills, and Melissa said, "Please, he's a guest. The least he can do is stay out of my way. It's like living with a ghost." My chest felt heavy. I quietly turned around and went back to my room, sat on the edge of my bed, and just stared at the wall. That night I didn't sleep a minute. Every cold look, every dismissive comment, every fake smile made perfect sense now. But instead of confronting her, I decided to play it smart. I wanted to see just how deep her selfishness went. What Melissa didn't know was that I had a decent amount of savings, left almost $500,000. I had planned to leave most of it to Daniel and the grandkids, assuming they cared for me out of love, not obligation. But now I needed to know who truly deserved it. A week later, during breakfast, I casually mentioned that I was thinking about downsizing. I told them maybe it was time to sell my old house and move into an assisted living community. Daniel immediately said, "Dad, you don't have to do that. You're welcome here." But Melissa, she smiled that sugary fake smile and said, "Well, George, maybe it would be easier for everyone. You'd have your own routine, your own space." The tone in her voice made my skin crawl, but I nodded and said, "You're right, Melissa. I'll start looking." That very night I started my little plan. I printed out an old bank statement showing my savings account $480,000, and I made sure to accidentally leave it on the kitchen counter. The next morning I caught her staring at it. Her eyes went wide. She looked like she'd just seen gold. From that day on, she changed completely. Suddenly, she was cooking breakfast every morning, asking about my day, offering me tea in the evenings, and even calling me Dad again like she used to. It was almost funny watching her transformation. I acted completely unaware, smiling and thanking her like nothing had changed. But every time she tried to be overly sweet, I made a mental note. I even started recording our conversations with my phone, keeping a log of her behavior before and after she found out about the money. When Daniel returned from his trip, I invited the whole family out to dinner my treat. We went to this nice steakhouse downtown, the kind of place we used to go when Margaret was alive. Everything seemed normal, laughs, small talk, the kids being silly. But I had one thing on my mind. I waited until dessert before speaking. I said, I've been thinking a lot about my will lately. The moment I said that, Melissa leaned in with that fake sweet tone. Oh, really, George? That's such a responsible thing to do. I smiled, calm as ever, and said, yes, I've realized something important. Family isn't about who shares your last name. It's about who treats you with kindness, even when no one's watching. She looked a little uneasy, but I kept talking. Then slowly I reached into my pocket, pulled out a small voice recorder, and pressed play. The table went silent as her own voice filled the air. I can't wait until Daniel agrees to put his dad in assisted living. She froze. Daniel's face went red. His fork slipped from his hand and clattered on the plate. Melissa started stammering. George, I didn't mean it like that. It was just a bad day. But it was too late. The truth was out, and there was no taking it back. Daniel looked heartbroken, like someone had punched him in the chest. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, Melissa, I thought you should both hear how you really feel about me. She tried to cry, to twist it into some misunderstanding, but Daniel wasn't buying it. He apologized over and over, saying he had no idea, that he never wanted me to feel unwanted. That night, I quietly packed my things and left. I didn't want a scene. I just needed peace. I moved into a cozy senior community nearby, bright rooms, friendly faces, people my age who actually respected each other. And for the first time in years, I slept peacefully. A few months later, I rewrote my will. Daniel and the grandkids were still included because they'd always shown me love, but Melissa? Not a single penny. Instead, I donated a big portion of my savings to a scholarship fund in my late wife's name, meant to help single mothers who genuinely cared for their families. Word got back to Melissa eventually. She never reached out to apologize again, but she'd never forget that night at the restaurant. And as for me, I learned something valuable. People can fake kindness, but they can't fake respect. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Now I live a quiet, happy life, surrounded by people who greet me with genuine smiles. Not the kind that disappear when the door closes. Sometimes when I sit by the window with my morning coffee, I think about how things could have been different if she'd just treated me with decency. But then I smile, because in the end, I didn't need revenge, I only needed truth. And the truth always finds its way to the surface, no matter how hard someone tries to bury it.